It was past midnight when the neon lights of Lenny's Quick Mart flickered weakly against the damp asphalt outside. The parking lot was empty except for a few motorcycles glinting under the orange streetlight, their chrome frames gleaming like sleeping beasts. Inside, the faint hum of a refrigerator was the only sound breaking the stillness. Behind the counter stood Maya, a young cashier barely in her early 20s, her tired eyes reflecting exhaustion and quiet resilience. She had just finished counting the till, ready to lock up and head home to her small apartment after a 12-hour shift. She had dreams once, college, photography, a life beyond these four walls, but life hadn't exactly played fair. Her mother's medical bills, a younger brother still in school, and the cost of living had turned her into the kind of person who didn't have the luxury to dream anymore. But tonight, as she slid the cash drawer shut and turned off half the store lights, she whispered to herself, just one more day down. She didn't know that before the night ended, she would find herself in the middle of something that would change her life, and remind everyone watching that heroes sometimes come from the most unexpected places. Backhand index pointing right before we go further. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in people who stand up when it matters most, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who could use a little hope tonight, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the good still left in this world. Outside, the quiet of the night was broken by the low growl of an approaching car. A beat-up sedan rolled into the parking lot, its headlights slicing through the fog. Inside were three men, faces rough, eyes glassy, and trouble written all over their smirks. They weren't here for groceries. They were drunk, loud, and the kind of people Maya had learned to fear. She froze when the bell above the door jingled as they stepped in, even though the closed sign hung clearly. "Hey, sweetheart," one of them slurred, tossing an empty beer can onto the counter. "We just need a little something to take the edge off the night." Maya's voice trembled as she explained the store was closed, that the registers were already locked, that she couldn't sell anything. But they didn't care. One leaned closer, his breath thick with alcohol, sneering as he said, "You don't gotta sell us anything. Just be nice." The others laughed, closing in. Fear clawed at her chest as her hands shook. She reached for the phone under the counter, but one of the men slammed his palm down, knocking it out of reach. Her heart pounded. She had no one nearby, no security, and the street outside was empty. The store's windows reflected her terrified face, trapped between the aisles of chips and canned soup. What Maya didn't know was that she wasn't entirely alone. At the back of the store, past the storage door marked "Employees Only," four men sat quietly around a table stacked with half-eaten sandwiches and steaming coffee cups. They were part of a local biker club known as the Iron Wolves, rough-looking, tattooed, with scars that told their own stories, but beneath the leather and grit, they were loyal men who protected their own. They had stopped by earlier that night to help Lenny, the store owner, with a broken freezer and to share some late-night laughs before hitting the road. Lenny, a longtime friend, had stepped out for supplies, trusting Maya to close up. The bikers stayed behind to finish their food, hidden from view. When they heard the sound of raised voices, their laughter died instantly. Hawk, the leader, a broad-shouldered man with gray in his beard and eyes sharp as steel, exchanged a look with his crew. Without saying a word, they stood. Back at the counter, the thugs had cornered Maya near the cigarette rack. One reached for her arm. "Come on, don't make this hard, girl," he said, his grin twisted. But before he could touch her, a deep voice rumbled from behind them. "You boys lost?" They turned. The bikers stood there like shadows come to life. Hawk in front, arms crossed over his chest, the other three, Brick, Tank, and Ghost. Behind him, each one radiating silent menace. The air thickened instantly. The thugs tried to laugh it off at first. "What's this? The retirement biker club come to save the day?" one sneered. Hawk stepped forward, his boots echoing on the tiled floor. "You heard the lady," he said evenly. "The store's closed. Time to move on." Something in his tone made even the drunkest of them hesitate. But the biggest one, who clearly thought he had something to prove, snorted. "Mind your business, old man. We're just having a little fun." He reached into his pocket, the glint of a knife catching the light. The bikers didn't move at first. Then Hawk said quietly, "Wrong night to pick a fight, kid." What happened next unfolded like something out of a movie. One of the thugs lunged forward, but Brick caught his wrist midair and twisted hard, sending the knife clattering across the floor. Another swung wildly, only to be met by Tank's forearm, a wall of muscle that sent him sprawling. The third tried to run, but Ghost stepped in front of him, shaking his head slowly. It was over before it really began. Within seconds, the three were on the ground, groaning, disarmed, and completely outmatched. Maya stood frozen behind the counter, hands trembling, tears spilling down her cheeks. The fear that had suffocated her moments ago was replaced by disbelief. Hawk turned to her, his voice gentler now. "You all right, sweetheart?" She nodded weakly, covering her mouth as sobs shook her shoulders. When the police arrived 15 minutes later, called by Hawk himself, the bikers stood calmly outside the store, watching as the officers cuffed the men and loaded them into the squad car. Maya gave her statement, still in shock. One of the officers, clearly familiar with the Iron Wolves, nodded respectfully at Hawk. "You boys saved her from something real bad tonight," he said. Hawk just shrugged. "We were just in the right place." But for Maya, it was more than that. It was the first time in a long time she'd seen kindness wrapped in toughness, protection without expectation. She offered to buy them coffee as a thank you, but Hawk smiled. "We've got plenty. Just promise me one thing," he said. "Don't stop believing there's good out there. Even if it doesn't always look the way you expect." In the days that followed, word spread through the small town. People who had once crossed the street to avoid the Iron Wolves now greeted them with nods and smiles. The store owner, Lenny, couldn't thank them enough. And as for Maya, something changed in her. The fear that had lived inside her since her father's death, since every night working alone behind that counter, began to fade. A week later, she hung a small sign near the counter that read, "Not all heroes wear badges. Some ride bikes." Every evening, when she'd close up and glance at the parking lot, she'd sometimes see a motorcycle parked in the distance, never too close, never intrusive, but always there. A quiet reminder that someone was watching out for her. Months passed, and Maya's life began to slowly turn around. Inspired by that night, she started taking night classes again, determined to study criminal justice. She wanted to help protect others the way she had been protected. The bikers became like an extended family. They'd stop by every now and then, fixing a broken shelf, bringing her dinner, or making her laugh when the nights got too long. Then one evening, just before closing, Hawk came in alone. His leather jacket was dusted with road dirt, and his usual stern face softened when he saw her. "Heard you got into college," he said with a grin. Maya smiled shyly. "Yeah. It's part-time, but it's something." He nodded. "That's more than something. That's you taking back your life." Before he left, he handed her a small keychain, a miniature silver wolf. "Keep it with you," he said. "Remind yourself that even when you feel alone, you've got a whole pack out there that's got your back." That night, as she locked the doors and looked out into the quiet parking lot, the neon lights reflecting off the damp pavement, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: safety. Not because the bikers were still around, but because she had found her strength again. Life didn't magically get easy. There were still long shifts, bills to pay, and struggles to face. But every time she felt fear creeping in, she'd grip that little silver wolf and remember the night everything changed, the night she realized that courage isn't about not being afraid, but standing your ground even when you are. And the Iron Wolves? They went on doing what they did best, protecting people who couldn't protect themselves, living by a code the world didn't always understand. To outsiders, they were rough, intimidating, maybe even dangerous. But to Maya, they were the reason she found hope again. One quiet Sunday morning, she rode behind Hawk for the first time, helmet on, wind whipping through her hair, as they cruised down the open road with the sun rising ahead. For a moment, she felt free, powerful, alive. The scars of her past still existed, but now, they told a story of survival, of unexpected heroes, and of a young woman who refused to be broken. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to believe in humanity again, and subscribe for more stories that celebrate courage, kindness, and second chances. Speech balloon. Before you go, comment below, would you have stepped in like the bikers did, or do you believe heroes can be anyone, anywhere, if they just choose to act? Because sometimes, all it takes is one brave moment to change someone's entire life.